Hello. All right, I'm going to add Amber because we are talking with Amber MacDonald today. Oops. Sorry, guys. All right. Amber!
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thank-
Thank you. Thanks for joining. I'm so excited. I know you got a lot of questions
Yeah,
specifically. So I think let's answer those maybe at the end, is what I'm thinking.
yeah.
So today on this Test Don't Guess chat, we're going to be talking with Amber MacDonald, who is an RWS level 3 practitioner, right? Level 3, and then an NTP.
hmm
Um, and just she's also in the HTMA course, which is awesome, the Instant HTMA course. So we're going to be talking all about RWS and HTMA and blood work and all the things today. So Amber, if you want to tell us a little bit about your practice, a little bit how you got started with this whole functional medicine world, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So I got into this like so many of the rest of us. I think probably almost all of us from the stories that I've heard was my own medical issues. I had chronic Lyme years ago, and I have just been burned by too many doctors, had a medical injury, and looking for answers. And I just could not rely on anyone else to heal me. I needed to learn the way my body worked and how can I help myself. So I started at the NTA in 2019 when I was healing from a medical injury and had to stop working with a functional Lyme doctor. So that was wonderful. I felt like I found my tribe.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
And that was like the best decision I ever made was joining the NTA and finding people that were like just like me that I had no idea even existed.
right. Yeah, I feel like the same.
Yeah. Awesome. And then, so when you graduated from the NTA, you pretty quickly got into RWS, right?
I did, yeah. I started right away. Like 2 months later, there was a level 1 class opening up, and I really was interested in all of the gut healing and the gut testing because that's what I've always suffered with. Everything is gut related.
Yeah.
So I was so interested in the gut testing and the food allergy testing. And I really liked it. I loved my experience with RWS. And I chose them because they are very organized and there's a lot of support. I looked into the FDN also, and I felt like that was almost a little too, like I needed a lot of hands-on help, I think. And I want like a community and to just be a part of something where there would be support and people that I could ask questions to and other people going through it that I could talk to.
Yeah.
It was such a good fit, and I highly recommend doing it right after the NTA if you can. I feel like it's just I did it all right in a row, level 1, 2, and 3, right after going through the NTA, and it was kind of crazy because I was busy and I wasn't really having the time to build my practice like I wanted to, but I like doing it that way. It worked out great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to be able to join RWS, what credential, I may have asked this somebody else before, but what credentials do you have to be able to be eligible for RWS?
Well, NTA obviously, but they also accept people that have gone through FDN, I think IIN. There were definitely some pharmacists that were in the courses that I was taking, even some doctors and some nurses. So I don't know specifically, but you definitely have to. There are some prerequisites. You have to at least have been through some background, but it doesn't have to be nutritionally related. It doesn't have to be the FDN or the NTA.
Okay. Yeah. But you can't start with RWS, basically.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what was one of your like from level 1, level 2, and level 3, which one was your favorite?
I really loved the gut healing one because it gave so much of the anatomy and physiology, and it really dug in deeper than the NTA had time to do. So I really loved that. I love the gut testing. It's really fascinating. And then level 2 is hormones and adrenals. That was really hard.
Yeah.
And then level 3 was blood chemistry, which I loved. I
Yeah.
would that was that was my favorite one.
Okay. But they
So
all sounds like they all had their perks.
yeah, yeah, they definitely do.
That's good. So what tests do you find that you run most frequently with your own clients these days?
HTMA, hands down.
Okay.
It's
Why do you think that is?
a bunch of reasons. Number one, it's really affordable, and I have a great package where you can get an appointment with me and your test run and all the results and exactly what you need to do to help yourself, and how and really it's just, I'm giving that to clients, and then it's up to them, and I'm there to support them, but it's really up to them to put in the work.
Yeah.
But I do love blood chemistry as well, and I feel like that is such a good fit with HTMA.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I run an HTMA, especially if I have questions about thyroid, which is coming up so much, I really like to see the thyroid markers, like a full thyroid panel in addition to the HTMA, and the same for blood sugar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both show different pieces of the puzzle, is what it really comes down to. Is like we can get so much information from both of them when we put them together. And so you can make like an even more customized protocol.
Yeah.
So do you have your clients like run, or will they come to you with blood work already, or do you have them run it alongside HTMA? Like, how does that typically work?
Sometimes. So there's 3 ways that I can do it. I can order it, and they can pay for it. And that's not an extra charge that I'm charging. It's just what the lab charges. The only thing there is that they're paying out of pocket because I don't accept insurance. But my complete blood work panel is around $200. And when you bill that to insurance, it's over 3,000. So it's a huge savings. It's just such a racket.
Oh my
So we can do that, which is great because then I get all the markers that I want to see.
God.
Or they can bring me their blood work, which tends to be a little bit piecemeal, and I usually am missing a few pieces there.
Yeah.
Or they can go to their doctor if they want to go through their insurance. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to do it any of those 3 ways. It really doesn't matter to me. I guess the only reason I might prefer running it myself is because then I definitely get all the markers. Doctors don't always run all the markers even when patients
Yeah,
request.
mask. I know. I hate that when you're thinking like, oh, I've got everything coming that I really wanted, and then it comes back and you're like, but where's the ceruloplasmin? I really need the ceruloplasmin. I need something specific, and it's not there. So talk with me more about the thyroid with HTMA and blood work. What have you seen in your own practice?
I'm seeing a lot of women that have really underfunctioning thyroid and not eating enough. I think we are just a generation of women that are not eating enough. It's just ingrained in us, and I don't like to see that. And you really can see that with people's metabolism on the HTMA.
Yeah,
I think
that's such a big thing that I've been seeing too, because I look at a lot of NTP's HTMA test, and it's like the most common thing that I see is that the calcium to potassium ratio, the thyroid ratio being like off the charts
right.
and off the charts like that. And it's not just like barely off the charts, not just barely up high. It's like 66 or something crazy high.
Yeah.
Um, it's that they're not eating enough. And I commiserate with them because when you're eating whole foods, it's kind of hard to get a ton of calories. It's really easy to eat a ton of Cheez-Its and get a ton of calories.
Yeah.
But
Right.
eating the whole foods, it can be really tricky, I feel like. How have you navigated that with your clients?
Really just I think it's just pointing out that what we see on the test, and I think it's really hard for people to change these habits that they grew up with, that they're ingrained with. And I see a lot of NTPs and FNTPs and health professionals as well.
Mhm.
And we know what we need to do. We just need to change those habits, and we need some support to do it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so do you find that showing them on their HTMA or on the blood work kind of helps it click with them a little bit in like a different way?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, that's why I love HTMA so much. You get so much information from one test. We're
yeah,
looking at the metabolic functions. How are your adrenals? How's your blood sugar? How is your thyroid looking? And um, we would never diagnose hypothyroidism because that's out of our scope of practice. But it's happened to me time and time again where I'm saying, okay, your calcium to potassium ratio is really high. Can you please, let's run your blood work and then maybe talk to your doctor and see
yeah,
what. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. So you said I hate to ask questions about my own program because it feels very weird and awkward, but
it's people want to know.
well, I am just wondering what drew you to instant HTMA professional specifically? Like what caused you to sign up for that for my course?
Yeah, well, I'm always learning. I'm always looking for the next webinar I can do, book I can read, course I can take. And I happened to see a webinar that you did with the NTA, I think it was, and I signed up pretty much immediately. It just, I don't know. I mean, I had all these tools in my toolbox, but HTMA brings it back to the foundations. And I know if you've been through the NTA, you understand what I mean, the foundations for the people that are watching. But really, it just brings it all back to the basics. It's not testing for pathogens. It's not, we're not thinking mold. We are going to do your HTMA and see what your digestive function is like, because if you're not digesting well, then you're going to be more prone to parasites, more prone to candida.
Yeah.
So that really was what hit home for me. It was really just the basics that just made so much sense.
Mhm. Yeah. And just kind of bringing it back to those basics with your clients. And then when it's necessary to address parasites and all that, you also have training, which
Yeah.
is so awesome. And I'm so envious of. I've been so wrapped up in the HTMA piece of everything, and I'm wanting to learn all of the gut testing and everything too. I'm currently learning blood, but there's just not enough time in the world. I'm the same way that I want to keep learning and learning and learning. So,
Yeah.
well, oh, I wanted to make sure that we got through the questions that were asked. I have them pulled up on my screen over here. So let me make sure. Let's start with those. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so asking about how HTMA can be helpful during pregnancy. Um, so I think HTMA is helpful no matter what time of whatever phase of life you're in. It can be helpful because your minerals are always going to be incredibly important with the way that your body is functioning. I always say that if you're pregnant and you're wanting to do an HTMA, to try to do it as early on as possible so that we can make the changes gradually and focus on things early. But if somebody wants to run an HTMA in their third trimester, there's no reason not to. The nutrient or the minerals might look more depleted because so much is going to the baby. And especially, actually, I would say the only time I probably wouldn't test is like that first 6 weeks after having the baby, because that really is when you are depleted and you need to be nourishing your body and all of that. And we shouldn't really be focusing on making big nutritional shifts or habit changes or anything like that in those first 6 weeks. I, personally, as somebody who had a baby 2 years ago. Um, but I think that the information that HTMA gives is so helpful, even as just a tracking marker of like, okay, this is how my body was doing, you know, 6 months into my pregnancy, and here's where I'm at a year later, and just being able to see it as like, these are my normal levels, or this jumped up. I think it's interesting. And you had mentioned you work with some clients that are like trying to conceive, and you've worked with a few people that are postpartum, right?
Yeah.
What have
I,
you seen?
I haven't run a test on anyone pregnant yet, but I would agree with your sentiment. We should definitely take a look.
Yeah, I think preconception is, and I love that so many people are joining my course right now that that's their focus.
Yeah.
They're trying to help moms, their mom to bees, balance their minerals before having a baby. And I think that that's one of the best places to put your time. Like, that is going to influence our next generation so much, because we have such an issue with copper imbalance, and
Hmm.
all of these things can be seen through the HTMA. And when you can balance them out, it's just going to help the baby in the future. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, preconception is huge, huge,
I
huge.
agree. I wish that I had HTMA when I was pregnant, which feels like 100 years ago. My oldest is 22.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you know my story, you know about my root canal journey, and all of those root canals started after my third baby. So there's a lot to be said for balancing your minerals during pregnancy and after.
I've talked with you about my own dental problems
Hmm.
post having a baby, and I didn't have HTMA prior to getting pregnant. I learned about it at the very end of my pregnancy. And I wish and I have so much insight into my own body now, and I'm like, okay, now how do we fix this? Because I feel like I'm having the after effects of being completely depleted after having a baby too. And
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's definitely difficult. So yeah. All right. So let's see, what were the other questions? Oops. How does hypothyroidism show up in HTMA? We kind of already covered this, but do you want to take this one?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So
Yeah.
that's the calcium to potassium ratio, and that's probably my favorite one. So I wrote some notes earlier. If you see me looking down, I'm just reading them.
Yeah.
So we see that elevated a lot. And I don't mean just a little elevated, I mean a lot. And that just shows that your thyroid is sluggish in terms of um, the sensitivity. So it's not really your thyroid function. It's basically, are the thyroid hormones getting into the cells? So when calcium is elevated, that's essentially blocking or prohibiting the hormones from getting into the cells, and the same with low potassium. Um, yeah, so I
Yeah.
think my answer to that one. And then if it's low, it signifies possibly an overactive thyroid, which
Right.
tends to be more towards hyperthyroidism.
Mhm. And just one interesting thing to note there is that, a lot of people, of course, are being told by their doctors that their thyroid is fine based on their TSH. But even when their thyroid is coming back okay with like a full thyroid panel, and their CAK ratio is off the charts, if you still focus on balancing those minerals, that alleviates the symptoms, is what I've seen.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
the blood, it definitely gives a lot of really good information, but sometimes the symptoms don't go away even when the thyroid, the blood panel is optimal.
Yeah. I had that exact thing happen to me. My first HTMA test, my calcium to potassium ratio was 188. It should not be that high.
Yeah.
That's way too high.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I did the blood tests on myself. Perfect functional range. Couldn't have been any better. No antibodies. So I'm making thyroid hormone. It's just not getting into the cells. So I supported my mitochondria, and it is drastically better on a retest. So I'm
Yeah. It's so validating to see when your results change. You're
yeah,
like, I'm doing something, it's working. Like,
yeah,
and it's working, and I love that.
You mentioned something earlier that I feel like we should mention to people, that it's such a good marker to have done regularly, even if you do it twice a year or just once a year. But it's a really good idea to have some retests. Don't just do it once and then go off those same results 3 years later. Things are changing, things are happening. So it's important to follow up and do the retests.
Yeah, every 3 to 4 months is what I say. But I offer like an annual, or I offered not an annual package when I was seeing one-on-one clients, where if they worked with me and they felt like they got where they wanted to be, that because I didn't want to just keep pushing them like to keep working with me. Like it's okay to I'm glad that I got you to where you wanted to be, but then let's just retest in a year and then make sure that everything's still dialed in, or we can do some different supplements at that point. Because yeah,
Mhm.
everything, our bodies are always changing and we're always in a new season of life. There's different stress levels, and stress affects our minerals so much.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the main things that HTMA shows us is stress on the body and how it's affecting our body.
Yeah.
So that can be really nice for people to be able to tangibly see too,
I
how
agree.
that. So, okay, so how does best courses if interested in becoming certified and do what you do? We kind of covered that already. Would
Yeah.
you recommend basically doing NTA first and then RWS, or would
Yeah.
you do HTMA first when
Um,
you
and I noticed somebody asked what the NTA was. That's the Nutritional Therapy
oh,
Association. So
yep.
that's those of us that are FNTPs or NTPs, that's where we got our schooling, and it's about a 10-month long nutrition program. It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, if I could redo it, I would do the NTA, then HTMA, and then RWS.
Okay.
But I still would do them all. And I'm doing RWS level 4
Yeah.
happening.
Oh my gosh. You are amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. Um, what tools or certifications can help complement HTMA?
What I thought here was just books and websites. That was kind of what I was thinking. I know you had a great list of books that you like, that you emailed your email list a few months ago, and I'm still diving deep into some of these, but Trace Elements and Other Essential Nutrients by Dr. Watts is great. Cure Your Fatigue about copper dysregulation. Everybody that runs HTMA or has an HTMA test done and has copper dysregulation, I'm not calling it copper toxicity.
Right?
I'm not
I
that here. Um, I think everyone should read that.
yeah.
It's going to be the next big thing. And I'm actually diving into the iron dysregulation too, which I don't know enough to talk about right now because I'm having to unlearn things that I learned.
Yep.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're wanting like a deep dive into minerals and like mineral relationships and all of that, the book it's called I think you just said it, Trace Elements and Other Essential Nutrients by Dr. Watts.
Mhm.
The best way to get that is through Trace Elements themselves. It's only like $20 through them. I've seen it sometimes on Amazon. It's like 60 or more, but if you just go through them, it's very cheap. That one it's just really good for that deep dive. And then I completely agree with Cure Your Fatigue is incredible and something that I'm personally continually going back to
Me too.
because I feel like it's a lot of information, but it's a lot of unlearning of what I've always thought to be true, which I love. I absolutely love books like that where I'm like, no way, like I've been taught this wrong my whole life, or the doctors have gotten this wrong.
Yeah.
And but I haven't, so people have been asking inside the course a lot about certain things pertaining to Morley Robbins' work.
Mhm.
And I haven't updated the course to reflect any of that because I am still digesting it too.
Yeah.
And I need to I need to practice it with some people and make sure that I fully agree with all of it before I'm, touting it as everything in the course. But the root cause protocol is very interesting to me. And
Mhm.
I talked with somebody on one of these chats about it. that had gone through the course. But yes, the information about iron, I mean, it all goes back to iron and copper, because even all of the iron overload stuff that he is talking about, it's constantly, we need bioavailable copper. And we don't have bioavailable copper because we don't have strong enough adrenal function or bile function. And that is, I mean, and no vitamin A, or very little vitamin A and retinol. So, I mean, it all goes back to that, is what it seems like for me.
Yeah, same here, which really, it seems like such a big thing, iron toxicity and copper imbalance, but follow the little trail. Oh, okay. Well, it's strengthen your adrenals, make sure you have free flowing bile, support your liver and your detox functions. And that's really some of the foundational work that we're doing.
Exactly. And so it makes sense that maybe we didn't know that this was the case before. Like we didn't know this research, but we saw drastic changes with our clients by supporting those things.
Right.
And we know that we were actually affecting their copper and iron balance. So
Exactly.
somebody asked just a few minutes ago, what is RWS? It's Restorative Wellness Solutions. And it's a continuing education that specifically addresses, they teach different labs and different systems of the body just in more depth. So there's level 1 that is focused on gut testing, level 2 that's focused on hormones, and level 3 that's focused on blood. What is level 4? Is there any testing involved in level 4?
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually a lot of testing.
Okay.
There's mold and mycotoxins.
Okay.
There's some genetic testing. I started it but had to stop because it wasn't a good time right now to do it in life. So I'm doing it in August. But yeah, there's a bunch of testing, inflammation. Yeah, it's all of the weird hard cases where you have clients and nothing has worked for them and there's some strange thing going on and you need to get to the root cause of it.
Yeah.
It's all of the deep stuff.
Okay. That's awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
I get more information from you once you go through that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then I think this is the last, here, where'd it go? Why, oh, what other protocols do you use most and find beneficial in conjunction with HTMA? I think we already went over that, but with basically blood chem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then potentially running gut markers if they're not absorbing.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I had one last minute question too. And it was somebody, if you don't mind, I'll do that before we
Yeah,
stop.
absolutely. I love it.
It was where to start the healing with a low functioning adrenal and thyroid. And this specific person who asked is a client, so I'm going to answer. These are generalized, but also good for her. So eating enough and eating often. Definitely balancing your blood sugar and supporting the liver. Make sure your detox pathways are open and that you're supporting the liver. Managing your response to stressors. I am not one of those people that's going to tell you reduce your stress because, I mean, we're all stressed all the time and everything is a stress. The foods that we're sensitive to that we're eating, that's a stress. Not eating enough, that's a stress. Your child having a tantrum, a stress. We live in a toxic world. There's always stress. It's just really working on your nervous system to how you handle the stress, how you're managing. I think that's a big thing. And then adrenal cocktails, we love.
We love them.
Yeah. So, and that's, great for your minerals right there.
Yeah. I think something that I'm working on personally, and I've gotten a lot of really good information from an Instagram account called Zesty Ginger. I don't know if you follow them.
I
Um,
do.
they have really great information, but they were teaching something about just help, like different ways to help your body get into a parasympathetic state.
Mhm.
You're in that rest and digest mode. And I find, we will recommend like sitting down, obviously always sitting down at a table to eat your meals and taking a few deep breaths. I I don't know. I'm kind of a high stress type A person and I need a little bit more than that. And something that I've learned from them is two things. So one is like patting your chest. And so it's kind of like tapping, but
Mhm.
like taking the time to pat your chest, and then and like taking a deep breath in and releasing it for longer than you inhaled, basically. So counting maybe for 4 and then releasing for 8. That like switches me almost immediately because
Yeah.
it takes me a couple of breaths to even be able to do it, I find. And then also they do this thing where I have like these earbuds in, where they take your ear and like you can help get yourself into a parasympathetic state by like wrapping your fingers around your ear like that and rubbing right there. And so those are like little tricks that I've been learning lately.
I
Um,
love.
but parasympathetic state is really tough, I think, but very important for getting to that root of adrenals and thyroid for sure.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been super fun. I know we're like just at time, but I'm so grateful for you taking the time to talk with me. If anybody is interested in working with Amber, I know Amber is one of um, the people that is offering HTMA for students. She's a part of the HTMA for students program. So if you are an NTP or any type of nutritional type student, then you're able to work with Amber at a reduced cost, get an HTMA test done. Or if you're interested in just working with Amber in general, you can reach out, I guess, right on Instagram, or would you like to direct them to a website?
Oh, Instagram is great. But yeah, my website is empowereddigestivehealth.com. I love to talk with people on Instagram. You can always find me there.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'm sure I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Jensen. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.